After the departure of the mythical Knights of Cybertron, Cybertronian civilization, deprived of their benevolent guidance, descended once more into a primitive state of barbarism, with lesser tribal leaders carving out kingdoms and territories of their own. It was to this landscape that the Decepticon Shockwave was cast back in time by the destruction of his chronal drive, and, after an encounter with a kindly shepherd named Onyx, realized from his extensive historical knowledge that he could study why Cybertronians inevitably fell to the war by ensuring that history followed the path he knew that it must. As such, Shockwave murdered Onyx and took his identity as Onyx Prime, in order to engineer the rise of the 13 Primes. His first act was to christen the most fearless member of Onyx's flock as Megatronus, taking him on as a student. Knowing that Megatronus's conquest would be the impetus for the founding of the Cybertronian civilization, Shockwave allowed his pupil to run amok. Megatronus thus began a new war of conquest to expand the Darklands, annexing nearby regions such as the city of Protohex and the Forgotten Plains, murdering neighboring ruler Septimus Prime, and recruiting the fearsome twin gladiators Galvatron and RC to become his vanguards. Other tribal leaders who had arisen, including Alchemist Prime, Vector Prime, Solus Prime, Nexus Prime, and Alpha Trion, agreed in the face of Megatronus's conquest to work together, uniting their followers and founding a small village they named Crystal City. While Megatronus's legions marched on Crystal City, the United Primes were bolstered by Onyx Prime and his other student, Liege Maximo, whose kingdom had been claimed by the Darklander Advance. The two armies met in a battle that had the unexpected side effect of awakening 3 slumbering titans, Metroplex, Metrotitan, and Chella, from beneath Cybertron's surface. But while the armies were distracted by the arrival of the colossal beings, Onyx realized that their enemy was his old friend, Megatronus. The two armies agreed to a truce, and all 8 primes vowed to work together to rebuild and unify their planet. Having been enlightened on the value of myths and stories by Alpha Trion, Onyx Prime began telling tales of his own, inspiring alchemists with legends of a chosen one, and dreaming up a new insignia to commemorate their alliance. All, of course, based on his own knowledge of what the future held. The Dark Cybertron prophecy and idea of the Chosen One were specifically concocted to ensure Starscream's future rise to power, as a fool like Starscream would not be able to see through Shockwave's machinations. The 8 original primes were soon joined by 5 more, and over time, Cybertron's inhabitants united under the banner of the 13 tribes, each prime building a distinct civilization. In this era of peace, the Liege Maximo was responsible for building and maintaining the alliance between the 13. In honor of his feats, Liege Maximo's followers became known as skilled diplomats and negotiators. Each prime commanded the loyalty of at least one Titan, while the diminutive Titan Masters served as their heralds. Over the years, however, the decidedly mortal primes had come to believe that they were inherently superior to other Cybertronians due to their powerful artifacts and historic feats. Indeed, it was commonly held only other primes could kill a prime, though this was decidedly untrue. With Cybertron now in a golden age, Onyx advised the 13's leader Prima to spread Cybertron's enlightenment to other worlds, with their expedition, led by Onyx and Megatronus, with Alpha Trion accompanying them as a records keeper, being the first to leave the planet since the Knights of Cybertron. However, their first planetary landing on the world of Antilla ended in brutal conflict and the extinction of the native Attillans, with Prima blaming Megatronus for the expedition's failure. Liege Maximo, who, seeing helpful lies as more beneficent than harmful truths, had become increasingly manipulative and self-serving, acted on Onyx's order to stoke Megatronus's resentment over this incident, leading him to attack Prima. Solus Prime intervened to save Prima's life, but Megatronus killed her with the Star Saber that she had created. Megatronus fled the planet, while Liege Maximo was captured by the Primes and imprisoned within his Titan Vigilum, whom the other Titans deemed unworthy of remembrance and exiled into space. A repentant splinter of Liege Maximo's older tribe agreed to keep their former leader and his Titan permanently interred, renaming their dormant Titan Carcer. The fallout from Maximo's betrayal sparked the First Cybertronian Civil War, turning the tribes against one another in a planet-wide conflict. Battle lines were drawn, but allegiances shifted throughout the war, necessitating betrayals and new alliances. Onyx initially allied with Micronus, but by 10 million years ago, with the war drawing to a close, his tribe of beast mode transformers had joined forces with Nexus Prime and his combiners. Together, they raised a new army of headmasters using the enigma of combination. Disgusted by this fusion, Galvatron abandoned his post in Megatronus's army to slaughter the headmasters to the last bot. Together, Onyx Prime and Prima hunted Megatronus aboard Prima's Titan emissary, finding him on the planet Tsishi. Maybe that's how you pronounce it, I don't know. Megatronus killed Prima before being slain by Onyx, his usefulness to Shockwave's machinations at an end. Emissary carried Prima's body to the stars, but Onyx ensured that he would crash on a faraway planet. On returning, Onyx told Alpha Trion that Megatronus and Prima slew each other in final battle, the account of their deaths that he had learned from Trion in his youth. Megatronus's name was soon forgotten by history, and he became known only as the Fallen. Eventually, Galvatron tracked down and confronted Nexus Prime, obliterating the Prime with a single blast. Realizing that they were as mortal as any other Transformer, the remaining few Primes fled the planet for other worlds, with the exception of Alpha Trion. The war finally ended when Galvatron and Nova Major famously routed the bestial hordes of Onyx Prime, and, with Trion's aid and blessing, united the tribes as one planet under Nova Prime. Only Galvatron and Trion were left aware of what had happened to the 13 Primes. Alpha Trion simply let himself fade into the background of Cybertronian society, his true background as a Prime forgotten by the general populace. One way or another, the 13 departed Cybertron and vanished from history at around the same time that the 13 Titans departed Cybertron, with the intent of founding new colonies elsewhere in the galaxy. Exact details are unclear, but the mythologies of several of these colony planets claim that the Primes, including Solus Prime and Onyx Prime, had spearheaded the colonization missions themselves and subsequently left these newly settled worlds to their own devices. Either way, the developing civilizations on the colony worlds, cut off from Cybertron and the brutal injustices committed by Nova Prime and his dubious successors, began defying the 13 Primes, with some going so far as to worship any leader who wielded the matrix of leadership. The dominant religion of Caminus exalted Solus Prime as the greatest of the 13, while the 4 tribes of Eucharis and their prophet Black Arachnia viewed Onyx Prime as a benevolent protector. The role that the original Primes played in the establishment of Cybertronian society would eventually be immortalized on the silver screen in the hella racist film The Birth of Cybertron. Micronus Prime, master of Prion, was known to have abandoned his native universe entirely after founding a colony of Minicons. By the present day, his body lay dormant in the center of an alternate universe, the subatomic realm of microspace. The ruler of microspace, Baron Karza, eventually interchanged with Micronus and used the Prime's power to try and conquer Earth, only for Shazriela to use time travel energy to separate the Prime from her husband and banish the Minicon through time. The colony of Caminus detected a Cybertronian beacon emanating from the planet Antilla and sent 3 representatives to make contact with their ancestors. When they arrived, they found the planet to be a rusted wasteland ruled by Onyx Prime, who murdered Magrata. Following the expedition's return to Caminus, the torchbearer Pyra Magna encountered Onyx Prime when an army of robotic beasts terrorized the inhabitants of Parvis Opidum, so they could retrieve a sample of Ore 4. The experience left her traumatized, but with time, she realized that the Primes were not the divine entities that she had believed them to be, and began preparing to take up arms against the Primes, should the need arise. In the modern day, Shockwave unknowingly sent the Regenesis ores off to what he believed were random suitable worlds, but were, thanks to his future self's time-traveling manipulations, worlds touched by the 13. When Cybertron reopened a space bridge link with Caminus after years of isolation, the Mistress of Flame believed that Optimus, wielding the Matrix of Leadership, was the legendary reincarnation of the 13th Prime, a mysterious figure from Cybertron's past known as the Arisen. Optimus's supposed divinity proved a double-edged sword as he grew increasingly bold and unilateral in his decision-making. Leaning on the faith of others to unconditionally support his choices, he wound up annexing Earth into the Council of Worlds and sparking an interplanetary diplomatic crisis. New recruits from Caminus, Eucharis, Velocitron, and Division believed wholeheartedly in Optimus's status as one of the 13 and began wearing mouthplates to better emulate their leader. Liege Maximo escaped from his imprisonment in Carcer in 2017, following a zombie Titan invasion on Cybertron. The Camion Chromia was released from prison by Cybertron's leader Starscream to hunt down Maximo, but Liege, who by this point had come to understand his master's decision to exile him aboard his loyal Titan, was found by Onyx and brought to him in chains on his return to Cybertron. Liege was taken into custody while Optimus and the Council of Worlds entered negotiations with Onyx, but the Prime's manipulations caused infighting and chaos as well, as an explosion that killed Alpha Trion. With all of his plans falling into place, Shockwave discarded his Onyx identity, having no further use for it after he cast Optimus into the Crystal City Singularity. Though Maximo soon perished and Shockwave was taken prisoner, the Decepticons' machinations had forced all of Cybertron to accept a bitter truth. The 13 had been nothing more than ordinary Cybertronians. Upon hearing Pyra Magna vocalize this, Shockwave claimed his acceptance had been a part of his plan to render all faiths and beliefs on Cybertron meaningless in preparation for Unicron's arrival. As you can see, things got uncharacteristically granular for the 13 over the course of IDW Publishing's mammoth original continuity. Far from the usual name checks, by curtain call, each Prime had, on average, led a tribe on feudal Cybertron and befriended a Titan. At least 5 of these Titans went on to found off-world colonies during Cybertron's first age of expansion. With the collapse of Cybertron's first Imperial phase, the existence of these colonies faded into myth and legend. Future generations of Transformers would conflate the stories of these populated worlds with the other planets that had played a key role in the rise and fall of the Primes, eventually giving rise to a legend that 13 lost colonies existed across the galaxy, one for each Prime. Years later, the younger Shockwave seeded these 13 significant planets with the Regenesis ores, each bearing various fantastical powers. Taken all together, known information gives us these primes, titans, and Regenesis ores. Prima had the titan Emissary on the planet Elonia and had ore 12. Vector Prime had the titan Tempo on planet LV-117 with ore 1. Alpha Trion had titan Nemesis on planet Antilla with ore 7. Solus Prime had titan Caminus on the planet Caminus and ore 4. Micronus Prime had the titan Prion on the planet Prion, ore 3. Alchemist Prime had the titan Metrobase on the planet Ardruia, which had Regenesis ore 6. Nexus Prime had the titan Division on the planet Division, ore 5. Onyx Prime had the titan Cella on the planet Eucharis, ore 11. Quintus Prime had Quintessa, her titan, on the planet Galorum Prime, which had ore 2. Amalgamus Prime had the titan Novatius on the planet Velocitron, ore 9. Liege Maximo had the titan Vigilum on the planet Carcer, ore 10. Megatronus had the titan Metroplex on the planet Chieshi, if that's how you say it, ore 8. And the Arisen had titan Metrotitan on planet Earth, ore 13. If you'd like to know more about the 13 primes from the IDW 2005 continuity, I highly suggest you visit the link I've left below. It's what I was reading from. There's a lot more to read about the 13 and other continuities, including, of course, the individual pages for each 13 prime members from this continuity. Thanks for watching. See you later.